You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And as usual, we are your hosts for the show. And of course, we're coming to you now live, although unless you're watching the rebroadcast, in which case, we're not really coming to you live. But at the time that we're doing this, this is a live stream, so we're talking about Ahsoka updates. You know, it's funny. They've actually started just giving out a bunch of updates. And even though there's not too many of them, they're fairly significant. I mean, there's some things that I think are, I don't know, maybe they're not earth-shattering or something like that. You know how, like, sometimes they'll say that, hey, you know, we're going to do this update, and then you're like, really? That's it? Like, they'll write an entire article, and all it is to tell you that, you know, something's going to come out in 2026. You know, that kind of thing.
They spend half the article recapping for season one or something. It's just like, thank you.
Well, it's almost like, you know, when you're trying to do those papers and you're trying to just like fill up space, you know, it's got to be okay, like 100 and some words, double spaced or something. And so you just start, you know, doing a bunch of nonsense. Or if you have to like give a speech or something, you know, you'll probably spend the first 5 minutes of it. If it's like a 15-minute speech, you'll spend the first 5 talking about how you came up with the topic. You know, filler like that.
Yeah.
But this one, well, there are a few things I would say that are maybe kind of like that, but there are some really significant things too that are. There's one that I think people are concerned about, but they really shouldn't be, and I'll explain that, or one of us will explain that later. But there's some of them though that are pretty encouraging actually, and I think are fairly significant. So, I mean, I could start with one. One of them is that they're actually getting away with shooting on the volume, and they're actually going on location, and they're shooting on more locations, and that's something that's huge.
I read that too. Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, ironically, not just because we're talking about, you know, this tonight, but yesterday I kind of started. I was like in the mood to, you know, watch something, and it was, you know, kind of a cool night last night. I was like, you know what? Let me start watching Ahsoka again because, you know, I never really watched it all the way through.
Yeah, I still haven't done that either. I mean,
you know,
that's
what I'm saying. It's like, since it's been done, I've never watched it all the way. I've just,
well, there's two things about that, because not only have I not watched it all the way through since, well, I mean, probably ever really, because it was released week by week. So there's the one part where, like you said, you watched it all the way through, right? So that's different. The other difference I think that should be noted, which I'm sure you're probably going to get to, is the fact that you're just watching it purely to watch it. You're not worried about reviewing it the next day.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's something that I meant to do that with a lot of these shows, where, you know, go back and actually watch them just, you know, basically as a fan. Ted says, hey, all. So Ted's with us tonight.
Hey, Ted.
Hey, Ted. So, yeah, I mean, I think that that's an important thing. So, given that, I mean, I can't imagine, because, you know, I mean, I still think our reviews are pretty spot on. But, I mean, was there something that changed when you watched it, or?
A little bit. I mean, like, I'm not as critical. So, okay, of course, you know, when we're watching it to review it, you know, we're kind of going through it with more of a critique versus just an enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
But what I did enjoy, though, was like, I forgot how actually good it really looked, like, for the most part. I mean, you know, there were some things, like, I think that foresty area, and, like, they were, you know, was kind of, just the foresty area looked a little gamish. But for the most part, though, you know, as far as...
That's funny that you bring that up, because one of the complaints that fans had at the time was that it was dark, and that's one of the things that Disney actually, that's one of the updates, actually, is they're addressing that. They're getting the one of the cinematographers from Rogue One to actually do this, to be on the crew.
Okay.
Because it was really dark and muted, and, you know, that was one of the problems that a lot of fans had. And I remember we mentioned that. And a lot of the result of that, a lot of it is because it was mostly shot on the volume. And I think that that's, I mean, it's actually funny that you're bringing this up now because that directly correlates with the issue.
Yeah, right.
Is that it was shot on the volume, and that's one of the things that actually made Andor so cool was the fact that it was shot on a variety of locations, and so now they're going to be doing that again.
Yeah, I mean, and like the opening, because I forgot a lot about Ahsoka. Like, I didn't know it kind of had like this whole opening crawl type thing. I forgot about that. And then the whole, um, when Balin and uh, Shiati, come onto
On the
the rebel
ship.
on the ship. I forgot how cool that ship looked. It definitely reminded me of Admiral Akbar's ship, but it
Hmm.
also kind of reminded me of a Star Trek ship, like the one in the newer versions that J.J. Abrams directed. So, but yeah, this like the whole, and I love how they kind of redid the whole episode 4. I didn't catch that. Well, I mean, I probably did when I first saw it, but I had forgotten about it. But they did the whole episode 4 thing where the ship comes into like it's
Yep.
this long,
Oh yeah, we talked
and I was
about it
just
on
like,
the review.
yeah.
Well, that's
So
another thing. I mean, honestly, look, and this is something that we also said on the review, is that Balin and Shin Hati were probably the two coolest characters on the show. And it
yeah.
was, I remember at the time we even mentioned that it's too
Anyway,
bad. Yeah, yeah.
'cause I still find myself laughing at the same
No, I
jokes
mean, he
again.
was,
Like, man, that
but I
was.
mean, like, as far as like compelling villains, and I mean,
Oh
of
yeah,
course,
yeah,
yeah, sure, we meet Thrawn and all that stuff, but I mean, they're compelling because they're so different. And they're not so, there's something different about them.
yeah,
And they don't pop up as much, so they're used sparingly, and I think that really generates an interest.
yeah. Balin kind of reminds me of a more. um He looks like he could have like been Dooku's like Padawan. That's what he reminds me of. Instead of Qui-Gon, it reminds like it seems like Dooku would have picked him to be a Padawan.
Oh yeah, I mean,
But
without question, there's like a certain regal type of way that
yeah,
he carries himself, and there's a little bit of a nobility and I mean,
yeah,
all of that. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. But I think that when you're looking at the whole thing as a whole, because I want to do the same thing. I want to go back and just basically, watch them. I really want to do that with most of the shows. Like
yeah,
Obi-Wan, same thing. Because I
yeah.
mean,
I've done Obi-Wan already. I just have to do it. Like Ahsoka, I only got through maybe 3 or 4 episodes of Ahsoka.
how long were they each episode?
Oh, roughly
Was
about
it the typical 35,
for
40
like
minutes?
around 40 minutes,
Yeah.
45, somewhere around there.
Because that's one of the things that when you actually look at a lot of the things they want to do in season 2,
Hmm.
Bryce Dallas Howard, which is like another one of the updates, right? She came in, did her few episodes, and she's not even sure if this is going to be the final season or not. She's alluding to it might not be, but she really doesn't know. But
Hmm.
she was basically talking about the fact that it's going to be about the same runtime, and the only problem that I have is like if you're going to make 35, 40-minute, 45-minute episodes, then give us 10 or 12 episodes.
Yeah,
Don't do the 8-episode thing, which is because now you're forced to cram a bunch of story arcs, and you're trying to like tell too much story in too little time.
too little time. Yeah,
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's something that I would say I would caution them, like, they're going to listen to me. Like, yes, we're a multi-billion dollar company, but by all means, what do you think?
yes, exactly. Yeah, my friend here says it just fine.
However, the problem that some of these filmmakers end up coming up with all the time, and I mean time after time, by the way, they forget that they're making them for us. I
Hmm.
mean, sure, you're doing it for the art. I mean, Lucas certainly fell into that category where really Lucas wasn't making them for us. He was making
Hmm.
them for him. And if we happen to like it, great.
So be it, right?
Right. But I mean, Disney is clearly, at least allegedly,
Hmm.
trying to make it for the fans. So they really need to start listening to some of the complaints. And the good news is, it sounds like they have. because again, they're paying attention. Okay, we're not going to make it as dark and muted and whatever. And now we're not going to rely so much on the volume. We're actually going to go out. We're going to shoot on locations. We're going to get the cinematographer from Rogue One to be on the team.
And by the way, I mean, it's already season 2 is already wrapped as far as shooting.
Yeah, it's in post-production, and that's another update.
Yep.
Is they're talking about the fact that it could be like 10 to 12 months in post-production, which is interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking, why did Ahsoka season 2 take so long to, be released? And one of the things that people have to remember is that, like, Dave Filoni is very particular about Ahsoka, number one, as far as writing this story, because this is his baby, this is his character. But then also, he's also the writer and one of the directors for Mandalorian and Grogu. So because those things happen simultaneously, it kind of, he's kind of stretched thin a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of what I think is happening too is the fact that there seems to be this move back towards theatrical releases, and they're going to start to pivot away from Disney Plus. That's the only concern that I have as far as the opportunity for Ahsoka to have a season 3. I think that a lot of that really depends on where they were going to want their focus, because if they really, now it could very well be that they do a Mandalorian style thing, right? That season 3 is a film, like that could happen. Now, Thronkill has an interesting thing. He says, yes, fans have been clamoring for a new female Jedi. This just happened to have red hair. I'm not exactly sure. Like, this is almost kind of like our Amy Adams' Mara Jade thing.
Yeah, I think that's what I was like, maybe he's mistaken the whole Amy Adams thing.
Maybe, but I mean, look, you got Sabine.
Oh, well, Sabine kind of has
Sabine,
hair.
and she does. And I mean, that's what that comment reminds me of, is the fact that, now they're trying to move that forward, like have her be almost like a Jedi, which I'm still not really in love with that concept. I think that's some, I mean, now granted, Filoni is the one that's basically writing this, so it's hard to criticize from that standpoint, right? Excuse me, because it's his character. He could do what he wants, but the problem that I have is when you follow the story arc, and this is one of the things that bothers me. You follow the story arc from these characters, and there's a lot in the Clone Wars. For development, for, I mean, there's just like so much that went into developing the character as a Mandalorian who wielded the Darksaber. And now it's like, oh, just kidding. We're almost going to pivot to, oh, now she's going to be like another Jedi character. And I don't know about that.
Well, could it be, and this is a thought, could it be that because Grogu chose the path to be a Mandalorian, and because Sabine is a Mandalorian, she's choosing the path of a Jedi? Like it's almost like they flip-flop, even though he has more of a natural ability of becoming a Jedi. Like, he obviously, as a baby, is like powerful already.
No, I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, there's merit to that comment, actually. I mean, a lot. I mean, right? Because, like you said, the natural path for each of them would be Sabine would be the Mandalorian and Grogu would be the Jedi, and now he's a Mandalorian, and now you're kind of like, but I don't know. See, the problem is I don't know how intentional that was, because none of that's ever conveyed. See, this is my problem with when they're presenting all of these ideas. Right. They don't, it's like, okay, if you're not going to make them clear in the actual project, so in other words, somewhere in Ahsoka or in The Mandalorian, that should have been,
Well, and it was a little bit, because like in the first couple episodes, they make mention of, and there was a whole conversation, albeit funny, where, this that moment where Huang was kind of talking about, she's like, well, you didn't do that bad this time. He's like, well, yes, with the basics, because
yeah, I mean,
he basically said that she sucks as a, and she wouldn't have been
that
picked.
Scene. And that was actually one of the problems. The other problems I had with season 1 is that She spent so much time being bad that when she had to then suddenly be good, it was too abrupt.
Well, see, the thing is that they showed, well, they had a conversation with Huang later with Ahsoka, and she was basically saying like, well, yeah, what you said to her didn't help. He's like, well, I said it was true. He's like, she wouldn't have been picked, and he was just like, well, I don't need her to be a Jedi. I need her to be herself. So then
Yeah.
Huang replies like, well, if that's the case, if that be the case, then yeah, she's on par because she falls in line with the non-traditional Jedi because there's not that many he even said like there's not too many Mandalorians that'll become Jedi anyway.
Right.
So so now it's kind of like, is it wrong to put Sabine in the category of Jedi, even though like because the lightsaber, the Force, we automatically think Jedi. However, Ahsoka, because she left, she is no longer follows the Jedi dogma.
Right, you're just saying, okay, she's just developing Force abilities.
She's
It's
a
not,
Force wielder,
it's not,
basically.
yeah, it's not tied to it. Or you could even use semantics, right? That basically Sabine could be a Jedi Mandalorian, whereas Grogu is a Mandalorian Jedi. I mean, you can, if you wanted to classify him like that, you could almost do that. And I mean, I would,
Yeah.
I would say, all right. So there's a couple like somewhat funny, but then good points here. Thrawn kill, of course. He says the future Sabine Shin Hati romance novel will fly off the shelves.
Oh man,
He's not wrong. I mean, it probably would. Well, remember we almost got that Poe Finn thing.
Ew.
I know.
Don't remind me.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, amen to that.
But now he goes on to say, though, that they're turning Sabine into Kyle Katarn using a Mando background as cred for her being a strong warrior. And yeah, that's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder sometimes if they're actually allowing the story to dictate where they're going, or are they trying to check off boxes of things that they want to include in these various projects, and they're trying to shoehorn them basically into those. That's my concern. My concern, you see what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, you're like, okay, is this an intentional move, or are you just trying to, like, does it the story that you created, does it naturally lead to this, or are you just trying to say like, ooh, this would be nice, we'll put a scoop of this in here and a scoop of that in there. Let's see what we come up with. We did that, It's like,
or like Thrawnkill is saying. I mean, basically, okay, we want her to be like a Kyle Katarn type character, but we're just going to use
Katarn.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but using that Mandalorian background is like, okay, this is how she's such a strong warrior or whatever.
Right, you giving her as that, like, she earns, she's earned that, unlike Rey, where we don't see her earn it. At least with Sabine, we know that she's has a Mandalorian
I mean, again,
background.
if that's what they want to do, fine. But I can't help but think that this wasn't the original trajectory for that character.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I get it. You could change your mind about things. I mean, it's sort of like, okay, you got the whole Rebels thing, and they ended that, and now we're bringing these Rebels characters into this new realm. It's not just a new realm, it's a new era. It's like a post-Return of the Jedi era. So you can make the argument that, hey, some time has passed. Maybe we want to, do something a little bit different with these characters. And I would say, okay, fine. But you have to telegraph it. You have to let us know that that's what's going on. I mean, and if you're not going to do it within the universe itself, at least start mentioning this stuff in your marketing. When you're going out and doing interviews and things like that, I mean, at least be, yeah, this is what we're trying to do with these characters. Because the problem is, the temptation of somebody like a Filoni, or even a Pablo Hidalgo, if he's involved at all in it, or, any of these people that are in charge of story or writing, or anything like that, is they might try to, pass it off as like, well, just let the projects unfold and you'll see. Because one of the things that also came out in this update, and this is another mildly important one, I would say, is that Filoni doesn't necessarily want Ahsoka and the projects that involve Ahsoka to just be like these one-off adventures. It's like she's working towards something. There's
Mm-hmm.
like a connective tissue and a connective thread to all of this.
Yeah.
And I get that you're not going to just, show all the cards, right? I mean, you're not going to like say, okay, here's the entire story arc. It's almost like you want the audience to find out, just like she is, the character. I understand that, but you don't have to sit there and tell us every little plot detail of what it is you're trying to do, but just, let us know, like, hey, there's a plan. There is something in place here that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree. It's um again, we always harp about this, and we probably will to the until we all become Force ghosts at this point. Is just that the story, right? And that's the thing that you can't lose, and it's so paramount for Star Wars to get the stories right, because that's why we're really here. Is really the story. And like we've seen before, with Andor that had practically, no Force users in it, was phenomenal. And everyone ranting and raved about it. Skeleton Crew, for the most part, even though unfortunately it wasn't renewed, for the most part, had no Force users in it, except for, I was going to say Jared Leto, but that's not him. I don't know why that was. I don't know why that was on, but Jude Law. You know, outside of his character, it's you really didn't have any Force users, but it was a great adventure. It was fun. It felt like Star Wars. It looked like Star Wars. So that's the thing. And so with a character like Ahsoka, once again, who's so beloved, and this is Filoni's baby, we get it. But you just got to make sure you nail the story, and you have some really, really great characters. You got Thrawn, you got Ezra, you got Hera. Hera is supposed to play a bigger role in this season too.
Yeah, that's
which
right.
is also
that's
also another thing too, because we saw her. We see her, but she's more in an administrative role in one, where you're kind of used to seeing her in the action. Well, season 2 promises that she's going to be in the action more, and I wonder if they're going to bring in Zeb and.
It seemed like it. I mean, I remember seeing some clips that you had Zeb. I mean, and they're definitely featuring more of the New Republic in there, because obviously you have Sigourney Weaver's character. You have So obviously the military part is going to grow, and I would assume that you would more or less reunite the Ghost crew. But again, I just hope that if they do that, it's almost like what happened with season 1, right? I mean, it was called Ahsoka, but yet it was pretty much the Sabine show for the first 2 or 3 episodes at least. And
right.
That's kind of like, okay, I get that, but how about we just have a show called Sabine and you do that? Well, the show is called Ahsoka, and I get what they're doing, because you don't want to have a show for every character that you're trying to,
right.
It's
but
an
I think
ensemble thing. I get that.
I think what they were trying to do, and now that I'm watching it again, is that they're showing us Ahsoka through the eyes of Sabine. I think that's really what they were trying to do.
I understand that, but again, look at the way that Lucas told the story of the original trilogy through the eyes of the droids, essentially. It was way more subtle. You didn't feel like the focus was completely on them. It's the way that it's done. And again, it's because Filoni hasn't yet grasped writing and or directing for live action yet.
Correct. I would definitely give you that.
That's the problem. Just like all the weird plot holes that, you have that are coming up. I don't remember how far, you got into it. Well, like that one, the whole For the Empire thing and all.
Yeah, I just passed. That was just my last.
It's like,
episode,
really,
actually.
your security. I mean, come on. It's like a lot of this stuff is, even in universe, is getting unrealistic.
Yeah,
that's my
stupid.
problem. It's stupid. It's lazy writing. It's bad writing. And, you have to get over that before you can really do something and take it seriously. All right, let me get through Ron Kill's 3 texts or chats or whatever here. He says they should have kept Sabine's saber wound as one that wouldn't quite heal like Frodo, and it would carry real weight. And that's another good complaint that I have, is that ever since Disney took over, you have these Disney-esque endings almost, right? Like everything is just like, take the Rise of Skywalker, for example. Everything just happens too easily. There's no challenges anymore. There's
no tension.
No tension. Now you do get it in the Disney Plus shows, like in the the Mandalorian and Ahsoka and all that. But it's not like it should be. I mean, there's still a lot. Again, it goes back to what we were just talking about with the writing. He goes on to say, I always felt that Luthen's ability to read people made him sort of force sensitive. And possibly.
Yeah.
I remember there was speculation about that when the show was on.
And that's the thing, though. It's like, I don't want everybody to be force sensitive. Like,
Well-
I want people just to have just really good instincts, and it's
Sure, and that's the
it's
thing,
hard
because
to
he's a
do that in
politician
Star Wars.
type guy. Right.
Yeah, because that's what we've kind of come to expect in Star Wars. Like, ooh, I wonder if this person is, a Jedi, or he has the ability, or whatnot. Which is why, like, I love the fact that one of the things, like, I really did enjoy while rewatching Ahsoka is Sabine's struggle with the Force. Like, I love the fact that she can't just do it, and like she sucks essentially.
Right. I'm sorry.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Like, that's the way I feel like Rey should have been. But the thing is that, she, and even listening to Ahsoka when she was explaining it to her, like, I even loved her explanation. It was very Obi-Wan-esque in my opinion, because she was basically saying, like, look, I'll never be able to do this. And she's like, well, the Force is in all living things, including you. He's like, now, sure, there's a talent, and if you just have a talent for it, then yeah, it's going to make it a little bit easier for you to kind of grasp. You can do it, and you can do it. It's just you just have to work harder at it than everybody else. And she's like, stop trying to. She's like, well, I feel like the nature of the situation will help my Force abilities kind of come to life or something. She's like, yeah, it doesn't work like that. She's just like, try something small like this cup. And then, she brought the cup to herself, and, and she's like, watching her try to do that, just even move it a little bit. I mean, we know eventually she does make it move like an inch, but that just shows you that it's like, okay, like, you can do it. It's just, it gives you that hope.
But here's
and that's
the
what
thing.
I like.
Exactly, which goes into the argument, really, Thronkill's point. Why can't Luthen be force sensitive then? The Force is in all living things, and everybody can tap. Just because you tap into the Force doesn't mean you're automatically a Jedi or a Sith. I mean, you and I have talked about that a lot.
True.
And I mean, I think we
yeah.
should have. I mean, on one hand, I agree that it's like, okay, is there anybody in this universe that? But at the same time, if you have this universe is dictated by the Force, right? It's in all living things. It's
Yeah.
Then, I mean, by those rules, then everybody is tapping into it probably to some degree, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, I was about to say, if that, I was just about to say, like, well, and if that's the case, then you might as well say everyone, like, your intuition is really not, it's Force led, essentially.
Well, it could be, depending on how much. So it could be either or. It could either be their intuition is, dialed in, or maybe there is a little bit. It just depends on whether or not you're subconsciously tapping into the Force or not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You never know, though. That's
No, you don't, and because that was Luke's problem. I mean, even Luke, who as we all know, is the grandson of the Force itself. He didn't even know that's what he was doing when he was targeting all the Womp Rats and all that. He just thought he was good.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. But it's just like there's certain. So, for example, when we saw Anakin, and Qui-Gon says like, "Oh, well, you must be using the Force because he's like, yeah, I'm the only human that can pod race." Like, he's like, "Oh, well, you must have Jedi reflexes." it's just like, okay, that kind of pops up on your radar when you can do something that the common person can't do.
Right.
So, yes, to that degree, you're more like exceptional, more, into that realm.
But even Leia, right? I mean, Leia, both before she was using the Force consciously and after, she used it more for political purposes.
Correct.
So there's, I mean, it's almost like the Force can just enhance whatever natural abilities that you have, but to what degree it enhances is a degree of, one, your ability to tap into it, which I assume that's where you would have to get the midi-chlorians involved.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you start using that, because the people on the lower scale, like a Sabine, if you want to say a Luthen, or even Finn, right?
Or Broom
We don't know
Kid.
what
Everybody forgets about Broom Kid.
But see, even Broom Kid, I feel like he's a little bit more advanced because,
Well, yeah,
the
obviously.
he's just moving a broom to his hand. He just does this and the broom.
Yeah,
just,
just.
But I'm talking about like people like Finn, who we've never seen his true force ability or what that would look like. What I'm saying is, you have to be careful as far as like, okay, not making the world so small in the sense of like everybody is pretty much running around using the force, because it almost kind of diminishes like those people who are elite. Is what I'm saying.
Kind of. Because there's still, like you said, a development, talent, the midi-chlorian thing. I mean, think about it this way. It's like your whole sports analogy. I mean, you and I could go out it's dark, but I mean, if it were light outside, you and I could go around and throw the football around, but we're not joining an NFL team anytime soon.
No.
It's like there's, well, I mean, number one, those days have, probably passed, but I mean, even if they hadn't, it's like you have a certain level, anybody can pick up a football and do it, but you have different varying degrees of aptitude, for one thing. There's only so good you're going to be no matter how much you practice or whatever. And then, of course, the other part is the practice. Like, how much time do you put into it? So even if you are good, the more time and the more energy and all that. And so you could still do that with the Force. I mean, look, the Broom Kid, I bring him up because he's still like a little slave kid. He's just using it for just like basic things. Like, hey, I don't feel like going over there and getting that broom right now. I'm just going to bring it to me. But I mean, you would, because you would think like, hey, if I could do this, could I start force pushing like these overseers? Could I, I mean, it doesn't even occur to him, obviously, to weaponize it in any way. So
right.
It's not so much that, because yes, if everybody were able to have the same aptitude and use it in a militaristic type of way, then sure. It's no different than, the dudes that are, out in a bar fight don't have the same level of fighting skills and training that somebody in the special forces do. So it's sort of the same thing.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, all I'm saying is that within the universe of Star Wars, when you're like, when you have good guy, bad guy, white hat, black hat type thing, and now you have all these other characters, running around. It's almost kind of like people can't. It's almost like, I don't want to say people can't be normal, but you get what I mean? Like, okay, like Han Solo's like, okay, one of the best pilots, or he's one of the fastest guns. It's like, okay, well, now we have to rethink them. Is he really that good? Or is he using the Force? I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to consider everything now. And it's just like, I just want to be able to say like, okay, these people are my Force users. These people are just regular people who are just really skilled at what they do. And that's nothing wrong with that. But I just don't want everything to be like, oh, he's Force sensitive. Oh, she's Force sensitive. That's all I'm saying.
Right. And I mean, I would agree that, you can't have everybody being able to, I mean, because then what's the point? All right.
Exactly.
There's some chats here. Let me get to them all. Weaver's name is supposedly Bishop, and I hope it's a callback to Aliens. I think it is. I actually think that was an Easter egg that was in there. Let's see. Thrawn Kill's got a bunch. Thrawn Kill says, Rey should have been played like Richard Grieco in the 90s film if looks could kill. Goofy, but with success in situations. Hey, look, man, anything would be better than what she ended up being. I mean, for her, you put her in the Sabine situation, it's like, well, start out with something small, like, force lightning or being able to pull ships down or like the Jedi mind trick or something. It's like, really?
Right.
Then Thrawn Kill goes on to say, the Force is the super soldier serum.
Right, basically. Everything special about you came out of a bottle.
Okay, now I'm not sure. This would be really interesting if this is, I don't know. This can't be real. Christian Harloff. It can't be the Christian Harloff.
No, man. What?
You know what?
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna pretend that it is. This is my moment to pretend that, because who would just pretend to be no disrespect to Christian, but I'm just saying, like, who picks Christian Harloff? Like,
what could you even do? I don't know.
Harloff Minor. That's what's up.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, I have not forgotten.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting.
Everybody can use
being
the
that
Force,
we were big fans
special.
of the Jedi Council. So he says 100%
man.
agree. If every single person can use the Force, it becomes less special. There needs to be people that have zero ability to use the Force and are just regular people, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much it.
Yep.
You have to have like that separation there. Because if you don't, and again, I mean, I think that just depends on how people could actually, use it. And that's why I think in a lot of cases, the Force became somewhat convoluted. Like, it's just, when Disney got a hold of the property, it's almost like they're trying to over-explain it and do too much. Whereas when George Lucas was doing it, he was keeping it more broad, esoteric.
Mystical, all of that, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thrawn Kill. Do you think the survivable saber stab is used too much, Christian? He's like asking Christian Harloff. Everybody's thinking this is a real Christian Harloff.
Hey, if it is,
I mean, I'd like to know the thought too, but given that we're actually
what an honor this
show.
will be. I mean, because I've always talked about that when we watched Jedi Council too.
Yeah,
like,
we did. Yeah, what if these guys actually, like who's next?
That's crazy.
Is coming on or whatever. But I mean, I had an issue. I mean, we might as well talk about that part too. I actually had an issue. I had an issue with that whole saber stab thing.
Okay.
Like, I thought that was just. I like the fact that it took her out of action. I like the fact that it was a. It was a thing. I mean, I didn't just gloss over it too much. But I just thought it wrapped up too quickly and neatly in a lot of ways. I mean, you rewatched it. What did you think?
So, when it happened, my thing is this. The only way I can see her surviving that is if she missed vital organs. Because that was my thing. It's just like, okay. Now, granted, I know they got back to things. And fortunately, Ahsoka got to her pretty quick, like right after it happened. It's not like, see, unlike when Qui-Gon got stabbed, his was like dead center chest. I mean, that was, you're hitting all vital organs at that point. However, with Ahsoka, with Sabine, hers is a little bit, because judging by the scar, it's off to the side. So you could miss vital organs.
Yeah, you could.
Now, the thing is that she could have got, right, now, if you got her onto the ship and was able to stabilize her pretty quickly, and then you're right there in the city, you get her to the medical facility where they got back to tanks and stuff ready, and they can just dunk her in there and do whatever needs to be. I mean, sure, she could survive. I could see that.
Yeah.
Or if, we don't know if Ahsoka if she has force healing, did a little bit to kind of keep her stable and till she got to, the medical facility. That could have happened. We don't know. Of course, we know that wasn't going to work with Qui-Gon. I mean, because obviously in the story, he had to die. But, with this time you have Obi-Wan trying to save Qui-Gon, which is not going to happen because he's a Padawan still. Two, they're like this throne room. I mean, like there's no medical. I mean, everybody's pretty much fighting in this battle. I don't see them dragging him. I mean, they're like in this weird area, like the engine room or somewhere, the throne room. So yeah, just the time it would take to save Qui-Gon just wasn't on his side anyway. But for Ahsoka and the Sabine, it's plausible.
Well, you also got to think in terms of, just the advancement, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about Qui-Gon, it's a prequel trilogy. Now you're,
True.
You're like, what, 30, 40, 50 years or something in the future. You got to figure that maybe they can, they could do stuff. It's also the type of wound it is. So, yeah, I mean,
True.
Sure. But I just think that sometimes when they do these things, I don't know if they just think it all the way through sometimes. It's almost like, hey, this would be really cool, or we need something to happen in order to get from point A to point B, and I understand that. I mean, I'm not saying that I want medically accurate depictions of,
right,
of everything on here. I mean, I'm not...
Chicago
right,
MD
right,
or
yeah,
whatever.
This isn't like a medical drama. I mean, I get that. I mean... And again, I'm the guy that always talks about it's a fantasy, right? It's not even sci-fi. It's sci-fi fantasy.
Correct.
So fine. I get that. I understand all that. But, at the same time, I just want consistency in the storytelling. I think that that's basically what it comes to. All right. Jeremy Sneed says, what about the belief factor? That's a good point. You have to believe in the Force.
As far as what?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like there. See, now what he's talking about, I think, really plays into it more of when you go into the particular orders, like the Sith or the Jedi, or Dathomir witches, or Night Sisters, or whatever. Because, I mean, there's a couple of different ways that you can approach the belief in the Force thing. First of all, you had somebody like Han Solo who would never develop Force abilities, even though the Force flows through them, because he didn't even believe in the Force, and because he didn't believe in it, he never decided to do anything about it. So you could take it from that standpoint. The other standpoint is then you also had the Luke Skywalker situation, where part of his problem when he was training with Yoda was that he didn't really believe he could do the things that he could do, and that's why he failed. So...
But then you still have to answer the question of someone like, once again, like Luke, who technically kind of went through all three phases in a way.
Sure.
Because,
That's
when you first get him, he's like, okay, when Obi-Wan has to explain to him, he's like, well, the Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's a energy field that penetrates and binds all living things and yada 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 yada. And then of course the whole...
should have said it that way. That would have been great.
That would have been hilarious. But then it was like a Seinfeld episode. But then you had with the blast shield. Like, well, how can I stop the thing of it's like, well, if I can't see, how am I going to use it? Which I like that they brought that back into Ahsoka as well.
Yes.
Then he saw, he's like, yeah, I did feel something. And then he's like, yep, all right, this is your first step into a larger world. All right, then you get to Dagobah. All right, he knows he can use the Force, obviously, because he pulled the lightsaber to him like an hour and a half ago, fighting a Wampa. All right, but a ship is a completely different thing. Then, of course, he comes back and he completes his training and, like, he's the Luke Skywalker. So he's gone through all the phases of that, but he's also even went through the phase of not even knowing, like you said earlier, that he even had this thing. He didn't even know he was using it. So to that point, do you really need to believe in it to use it? Because obviously the will of the Force is going to do what it's going to do anyway.
Well, I mean, obviously, this sounds almost like the topic of another one of our big Force discussions that we have a couple of times a year. Because the whole belief thing, too, because, you have to believe in it to even attempt to use it, right? I mean,
that's what I'm saying, not necessarily. Apparently, you don't have to.
Well, you have to believe that it exists.
No, because you can't believe in something that exists if you don't even know that it exists. Like Luke had no clue that the thing even
He didn't
exists.
have any clue, but once Obi-Wan told him, he believed him.
Yeah, but
See,
it was
when Obi-Wan told Han, and when Luke tried to tell Han, and he was like, "You don't believe in the Force, do you?" And he was like, "No." Well, he's not even going to attempt to get anywhere because he doesn't even believe it exists. So it's like, if you don't believe it exists, you're not even going to try to tap into it. You're not going to,
true.
you know.
But Luke, like I said, Luke was using it prior to that with no knowledge that it even existed. So that's my point. It's like, well, what do you say for that?
Well,
for people like that?
because then, first of all, there's a couple of things. That's where I would put the exception in, because he is the grandson of the Force. It's like the Force
True.
directly. I mean, you can't.
Yeah,
It's a terrible example because of that reason.
I agree. I mean, that is.
But you know what? We can even still stick with him, because the other side of that is, if you don't believe in it and you're just kind of tapping into it because the Force flows through all living things or whatever, well, then there's only going to be a certain amount of it you'll ever tap into. You just don't know it. You know, it's almost like, again, you know, you love the sports analogies. It's kind of like, you know, let's say that I was a really good athlete, and if I really trained and I had a good coach, somebody that could guide me to reach my potential, then I could achieve, you know, like, I don't know, like
Olympic gold or something.
Yeah, or something like that, right? Now, if I never believe that I can do it, then it's only going to be that raw, unfiltered talent or whatever that will present itself occasionally, but it'll still be rough around the edges. It'll be, you know, it'll never get to any kind of a degree. Now,
it's like strength,
right?
Like you could be physically strong,
right? But you
just
don't know
naturally
how to use
gifted.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't know how to. Yeah, exactly.
You don't know how to channel that in. You don't know how to refine it. That's what you need. So the first thing you have to do is believe that you can actually do it, and then now you're starting to seek out people that can help you. So there's that. Ah, Chad. Back from Iowa safely. Well, kinda. And then he says, "I'll be your coach, Eric." Oh,
yeah, there you go, Chad.
Yeah, there you go.
You
already think you are anyway. You're gonna be my coach whether I want you to be or not. So I just learned to accept it. We love Chad. All right,
that's
so
what he was thinking.
Thronkill says Togrutas lived to around 100 years on the best days, so maybe she can use the Force to keep her age at bay. I never even thought of that as a use for the Force. David, of course, hello, gentlemen. Star Wars Day. Sorry I'm late. I didn't see a notification. Really? That's interesting. Make sure you have the notification bell hit. And then, of course, Thronkill says, Luke was using mob connections before he knew his uncle was a local bookie. And then Jeremy says, to advance from womp rats to force projection, he had to believe. And that's really where I was kind of going, is that if you don't ever believe at all in the Force, or you don't, none of that, then it's only going to develop to a certain degree. You'll have that raw talent, you'll have the raw ability, but it's only going to develop to a certain degree. Yeah, Once you actually believe in it, then you start to explore it. Then now you're starting to learn, you know, I guess.
You can't practice what you don't believe. So.
Right. But I mean, that it does sound like, you know, because we're probably overdue for another one of those grandiose, you know, Force discussions that we have, like I say, once or twice a year. That we can maybe that's what we can explore next. You know, how much does a belief in the Force affect your ability in the Force? So we'll work on that.
Interesting discussion.
Yeah, it should be an interesting discussion. And in fact, you know, we can even try to do some research on that and, you know, actually do something different, like prepare for the show. But I mean, I think that, again, it's relatively on the right track, at least as far as what they're trying to do with people. Now, where they go from here with Sabine, I don't know. I don't know if And again, you got I keep forgetting the guy's name. Rory something. The guy that plays Balin now. He's from Game of Thrones.
Oh, the new guy.
Yeah, the new guy. Yeah. Because it amazes me how, like, I remember when I saw a still of him, I think it was probably from Game of Thrones or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, this guy would be perfect to play. But we should probably, let me see. Oh, this is funny. You don't have to look him up. Thronkill already texted it in.
Yeah.
He must have hit this comment earlier. He says, I got to say that Rory McCann looks really good as Balin Skull. Yeah, I 100% agree. I was sold. In fact, it's funny because after watching Game of Thrones, you'd think that would have
been the first choice almost.
Right. But I mean, I have to give them a lot of props and say, hey man, that was spot on casting.
Yeah. I mean, Ray Stevenson, and then you got Rory McCann. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just really good, because the problem is you have to get somebody not only that basically has the general look, but somebody that can carry that same regality, nobility, that grace, the acting chops that Ray Stevenson had. I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, he really, the problem is the guy that died is probably the MVP of the show.
Yeah, Ray Stevenson.
Yeah, because he absolutely 100% stole every scene he was in. He was arguably the best part of the show. And, it's one of those things that you can't just bring in anybody. Like, oh, this guy's got like a white beard, let's get him in there. You can't do that.
Especially since he has a big pivotal role apparently in season 2.
Exactly. Thronkill goes on to say they have the same temperament. Yeah, right. There's that, kind of like wizened wizard thing going.
Yeah.
Like I could totally see him like in the King Arthur movies or something. Playing some, like paladin knight or something. Right. I mean, it's definitely. But I think that it's one of those things that you have to look at in totality when you're talking about not just the individual characters, but then where do you want them to go? And in the case of Balin Skull, yes, you have to, like you said, he's going to be playing, probably at least from what they've set up, a very pivotal role in the next season. You have to make sure that you can get the actor that's going to allow that to pay off.
Yeah, because he has his own side quest in this season.
Right.
He started it at the end of season 1, and he's looking for...
What's the Mordor thing, isn't it? I mean...
it's like a temple, or it's a temple or something like that.
Yeah, I remember, because you saw those, he's standing on those statues. They're really bringing in a lot of stuff, and I think it's going to get interesting. Now, again, this goes back to one of the criticisms that I have for the update, is the fact that if these things are only like 35, 40 minutes long, and there's only like 8 episodes, good luck cramming all this story into that.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. And really, I don't know, do you have any more cons? Like, we can do the whole pro and con thing. Like, of the updates that we know of, I mean, first of all, is there any that we missed yet that you haven't brought up?
Not that I can think of. I think we pretty much...
I think we hit on all the major updates. Yeah, we talked
the major
about
ones.
Her,
we talked about Hera. We talked about...
there was one more. There was one more that I said tied into an earlier point when I talked about they were going to use less the volume and more practical effects and locations. People were concerned about the budget being lower.
That's right. It was. Yeah, I forgot about that. You're absolutely right.
People were concerned that the budget is lower for this season.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out that it's actually a blessing in disguise, because apparently, don't ask me how, but I guess shooting on the volume is more expensive in some cases. Now, I thought that it was actually saving money, but I mean, it stands to reason, right? Because now you got to create all those backgrounds, and that takes hours. And I mean,
staff.
Staff. I mean, it's just like, look, we just go set, a whole crew up out at this location and then just do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it would actually turn out better anyway. Let's see. Thronkill says, if they make a prequel series, Give me Shin, Balin making their way through trifling fools together to Peridia. Yeah, I would actually like to see a prequel with Shin and Balin anyway. Just like, what was their story?
Shin looks like she would be the girlfriend of Kylo Ren.
Oh, well, she's just as unhinged.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
And it
look
was
like they
funny.
would-
it was really funny watching her too because she plays the other like robot android or whatever in Megan 2.0.
Mhm.
And it was really interesting to watch her in that role because there's some similarities, but it's different. And then, of course, when you see her interviewed, she's kind of like, not really bubbly, but she's kind of perky and, positive,
Mhm.
like completely not like Shin. So, props to her for pulling that off. But yeah, you're absolutely right. She would totally be Kylo Ren's girlfriend. Now see, you give me like a WandaVision style series with Kylo and Shin, I'm on
yeah.
board. I want that. I want that show. No excuses, right?
Right.
So Jeremy says, "Do you think Captain Enoch will be another Captain Phasma, a wasted character? More than likely."
Hey, I honestly, sadly, I do. I hate to say it, but I do.
Here's the rule: if they're cool, they're probably going to get wasted. It's comes down to it because again, like that whole thing, right? That's another one.
That's a valid question, but valid point. Yeah.
It really is because they keep creating these really cool characters and they're great for marketing and all that, but they let us down every time. They waste the character, they don't live up to their full potential. It's like at least when we were growing up with Star Wars, you had Darth Vader, you had, stormtroopers, you had all these things that were cool. They were really nice to look at. They look good. But they actually served a part of the story. Like, they were not wasted characters. Now, it's kind of, look, here's this shiny new thing, and, no potential there. And it's too bad, because if you actually read the Phasma novel, it's really cool. There's a lot there, actually. And it makes it even more tragic that they did that, honestly. Because that was another thing that you and I, we were joking about that on one of the recent shows, where it's like, they built Phasma up, like, because I think we did, didn't we? We just did a show, like, top 5 wasted characters.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, like, Jeremy, you might want to, and I forgot about Captain Enoch. I probably should have, well, he's not wasted yet, though, that's why.
We don't know yet.
We don't know
He
yet.
just got revealed.
Yeah, so we'll, the jury's out on that one. That's a good point, though. My money is yes. It's gonna be a wasted character, but, as all Star Wars fans are, we'll just expect the worst and hope for the best. Thronkill says, Balin equals a knight of 7 galaxies. And then David says, recast Ahsoka for someone who actually wants the role. But she does want the role.
Well, apparently there's not going to, there's going to be more action in season 2.
I think that, and here's the thing for David, like the message I would have for David specifically is I don't know if it's going to hit the same quality, but I think what Andor season 2 was to 1 is what Ahsoka season 2 is going to be to its 1.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be more of what people want, and I think that people who are disappointed in season 1 might change their minds for season 2, myself included, because look, even though, and it's good that you ended up doing this rewatch before this show because it does add to the conversation, but even both of us doing it, I have a feeling that what's going to happen is it's going to be the same thing. You said, okay, I'm enjoying this a little bit more now or whatever. But if you remember our original review when we did the wrap-up, we basically said the same thing. We said, look, we liked the series. It was enjoyable. We enjoyed it. But it had problems. Like, serious problems.
Yeah.
And I think that that's hopefully what's going to be fixed for season 2. And it sounds like that's what they're doing, that they're listening to the fans, that they're hey, we're gonna change the color grading on it now. It's not gonna be as muted and dark and all that. We're gonna get out of the volume and we're gonna go to practical locations. We're gonna get the guy that worked on Rogue One and one of the cinematographers of Rogue One and try to change that. There's just like so many other changes. I think that there's just in the updates that we gave, I think there's more pros than cons.
Yeah, my last update, and almost forgot about this. This is kind of a big one, and it's kind of a two-parter, or at least it runs in conjunction. Let me say with something else. So we're expecting Ahsoka season 2 to drop sometime in May of 2026.
Oh, right.
That's the predicted date.
Actually,
now
I read they changed that.
It could be. I mean, we know with Star Wars they always moving
because
dates, right?
I mean the reason why I read that is because they're looking at a 10 to 12 month post-production time.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have been saying the earliest would actually be August, and really more realistically it's going to be around like December. Now, the Maul series is going to probably drop on May the 4th.
Well, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because from what I'm gathering is that Ahsoka season 2 is supposed to piggyback off Mandalorian and Grogu, because essentially in Mandalorian, Grogu is kind of dealing with the war. Like we've talked about this a little bit last episode, I believe, but the impending war that's coming. So Ahsoka right now, she was trying to keep Thrawn from getting back into the known galaxy, which he did. We saw that at the end of season 1. And with Ezra stowed aboard with Captain Enoch and all of that. With Ahsoka and Sabine being trapped on, what was the planet name?
Peridia?
Peridia?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now there's supposed to be a epic space battle between Admiral Akbar and Thrawn in season 2.
Oh, interesting.
So that's a thing, and maybe I think that's partially because of the tie-in with Mandalorian and Grogu, because Ahsoka has met both of them, obviously, has a relationship with them, and so I think their story is tied to Ahsoka season 2. And I think those two are kind of a collab, if you will.
Now, do you actually believe, though, that the Admiral Akbar Thrawn thing is going to happen?
Well, it says the second season has been teased as an action-packed adventure. Which
it's a trap.
No. How long are you waiting to say that?
Well, no, because I've thought about it, because, I mean, it's plausible. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. And I know that I have read a few reports like that too, but I've just been taking a lot of it with a grain of salt, because I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. But I mean, it would make sense.
It would make sense. I mean, Akbar is still like in his, in a prime thing, right? I mean, this isn't too far after Return of the Jedi. He doesn't actually bite it, I think, until the sequel, so.
Yeah, and this is coming from StarWars.net too, so it's not like so it's a little bit more official. Yeah, that's the only reason why I'm a little bit.
All right, well that's good. All right, so Thrawn Kill, when he was talking about the changes for season 2, arm folding down by 30%. I remember when we reviewed the season 1. I remember the thing was, that's the ultimate drinking game. You will be obliterated within like 5 minutes of any episode if you do that. So he goes on to say the series was missing Beastie Boys sabotage.
That was one I forgot about, but that was the thing that the rock song that when Sabine was like riding out of
oh
Lothal,
yeah, that right.
That was just like, what?
See, if J.J. Abrams had been involved, it would have been sabotage.
Yeah.
But now, going on to something somewhat serious, he says the Maul series is for the shills. Good God, have they milked Maul, bro? I mean, so normally, here's the thing, and this is different. Now, in principle, I actually agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm actually looking forward to this series because it's supposed to take place with the whole Crimson Dawn thing. And when they revealed that Maul was actually in charge of Crimson Dawn and now it was going to steer a little bit away from like the Sith and the Force and all that, go a little bit more into the criminal underworld thing. I actually, because that's why I was really looking forward to Solo 2 and 3, which of course never happened, but they were supposed to. And it was supposed to be more the Crimson Dawn, the underworld, how Maul plays into that, Kira, the whole shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that's what they end up doing with this Maul Shadow Lord, is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. Then, fine. I'm all on board. Bring Kira in there if you can. Give me like the Hutts, the Pikes, all the other ones. Any criminal organization, make it, get the bounty hunters, a whole underworld thing, I'm on board. If you're going to try to, yet again, go in a direction like what they did with Rebels, it's like, okay, we don't need to see that anymore. They tightened up his story, obviously. So, I mean, granted, yeah, I know this takes place before he was actually killed in Rebels. I get that. But I just think that, in principle, I do agree that, okay, this guy was chopped in half in The Phantom Menace and miraculously survived. Never, if you had told me back then, after I saw The Phantom Menace in theaters, that Maul was going to be this super prominent character for like a decade after, I would have thought you were insane. I mean, people thought that Palpatine's return was unrealistic.
Yeah, that's true.
This guy was chopped in half and fell down a shaft.
Yeah, at least Palpatine kept his body.
I mean, granted, I get it. Yes, Maul kept himself alive to the Fourth, which is another convenient plot device, by the way. Anytime that they want to do that, that's what they say. Okay. David says, it's going to suck. I have no optimum. Even after Andor, even after Andor was amazing, this is a different show with different writers. He's not wrong in that sense. I mean, it is a different show. It does have different writers, and we don't know how much Filoni has learned from his season 1 mistakes. And look, I mean, I think cautious optimism is about all you can do. It's
definitely warranted, yeah.
Yeah, because, look, if nothing else, it'll be a fun, enjoyable show to watch. And maybe it'll further some canon. I think one of the things that we have to do, and again, I mean, it's tough to do. We should hold Disney accountable. We should demand, like, hey, if you're going to take control of this franchise, you need to be responsible with it. But at the same time, I don't really think it does anybody any good to just constantly, think that this thing is going to be the next best thing since the original trilogy, and then it lets you down for the 10,000th time. I mean,
yeah.
There's a point where you just have to say, okay, we like playing in this little sandbox.
This is what it is, though.
And yeah, and we have these characters that we enjoy, and you just take the good with the bad, because Ahsoka was not Andor, but it also was not the Acolyte.
Nothing is the Acolyte.
I think you have to really, I think because Disney has let us down so much, and because we've had high expectations, and we all did for Ahsoka. I mean, the trailer was amazing. We thought, yes, this is going to be the one, right? And it did let us down. But it wasn't like it was terrible. It just had some very, very glaring issues that are inexcusable. Don't get me wrong. No apologies here. We're not apologists. We're not shills. We're none of that. I mean, people have seen our shows. Where, I mean, if you really want to watch and see what we do, go back to the What Is Star Wars series, where we review all the movies, and then watch our review of the sequel trilogy. And if anybody thinks that we're Star Wars apologists or shills or whatever, that should end that. But at the same time, I do think that you can't go overboard in your criticism to where you suck the enjoyment out of every show that you watch. But you just have to, with Ahsoka, I think we just have to take the good with the bad. Now, another thing that we didn't talk about, Hayden Christensen's appearances. It looks like he's going to be in more of this. He recently canceled a convention appearance. There are some reshoots done. It looks like there's a higher concentration of Anakin Skywalker flashbacks or World Between Worlds stuff or whatever in this. I'm hoping that's true. Because I actually thought he was a highlight of the last season. Ted says Ahsoka Season 1 is so far my favorite show of this decade, the 2020s. And I expect Season 2 to be as good or better. Mind you, I'm not saying it's the best, but rather my favorite. Big difference. Well, look, that's totally cool. All this stuff is subjective. Look, you always go back and forth with Ronaldo. And Ronaldo hasn't been on in a while. We need to do a wellness check on him. But Ronaldo loves, The Last Jedi. That's his favorite one, I think. And again, we like it, but we have issues with it. Everybody
Major,
does.
yeah.
It's funny because there's a lot of people that hate it more than we do, but there's also a lot of people that love it more than we do, too. And so we try to be more like Star Wars realists, right? We're not super fan. We are super fans, but it never clouds our critique of something. We're going to be honest about it. So, if Ahsoka Season 1 is your favorite, look, there's a lot of, there's a lot of, songs, there's a lot of movies, a lot of stuff where even if it's technically not the greatest thing in the world, for some reason it appeals to you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we like to create here with this community is, it's a safe space. If people like stuff, there's no reason to tear on people because of it, which I know is the habit in the Star Wars universe nowadays. The Star Wars fandom is pretty toxic, but we're not toxic here. So, and fortunately, everybody that watches us is pretty cool too. So,
yep.
Hopefully that remains. All right. So we got a bunch of updates. Obviously we're probably going to do this again. I would imagine the next time that we do a Season 2 update show, it's probably going to be when a trailer drops or something. We'll probably be reacting to that. And when we react to the trailer, even though I know one's already kind of been, I think, didn't they show one at Celebration or something, or some teaser thing? I don't remember.
Possibly.
Well, either way, when an official teaser comes out or something of more substance, we'll react to it and then we'll talk about all the latest stuff. So there's a lot to look forward to. It's almost time for Visions. I think we're only a week or two, I think maybe a week away. Yeah, thought your headache was hurting. Now it's really hurting.
Yep.
So we hope Daryl feels better. He's had a headache, but hey, he's pushing through for you guys and for, me. So that's good. Do we know what we're going to do next week, or are we still leaving that up in the air?
Maybe this whole Force conversation.
Possibly. We could possibly do that. We could see if we can work that in. That would be an interesting one. If not that, then we'll have something. We'll have something. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this show tonight. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. You guys know how the algorithm works. The more people that hit like, the better the algorithm likes it. The more people that get to see our show. So it helps. And as you guys who are regular viewers know, you never know when we're going on live, really. We try to hit Sundays at 8 or 9, right? Or Mondays. But it's really beneficial if you just hit the notification bell. You'll get a notification when we're live, and then you can join us. Jeremy says, feel better. And Thronkill says, great show, guys. And that's what we like to hear, because that's ultimately what we want to do, is bring great, interesting, entertaining shows with good discussions to and for and with you guys. All right? So with that, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.